Welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft, welcoming you to our live, local, 5 days a week look into all things Oakland County. Today, we'll be talking to authors, advocates, and more about topics interesting and important to people like you right here in Oakland County. Let's get into today's headlines, making news on our website at civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Our top story today is from Sarah Raza at the Detroit Free Press. Good news, I-94 in Detroit is set to reopen on Friday morning after the 2nd Avenue Bridge was successfully moved. Both directions of Interstate 94 were set to reopen and have reopened as of 6 a.m. Friday morning after successfully moving the 2nd Avenue Bridge, though some closures will remain in place. Previously, the portion of I-94 between I-75 and M10, the Lodge, had been closed for 7 days. However, the following restrictions will remain in place despite the reopening. The left lane of westbound I-94 will be closed at 2nd Avenue until sunset on Sunday. The ramp from northbound M10 to eastbound I-94 will be closed until Monday. The ramp from westbound Interstate 94 to northbound M10 will be closed until early October. The 2nd Avenue Bridge is the first network-tied arch bridge built in the state, and the design removes the need for a center pier. The original bridge was built in 1954 and had not ever been replaced. It is expected to reopen for traffic in the fall. The $26 million bridge was built off-site in the Wayne State University Palmer parking lot. Now that it has been successfully moved, it needs to be bolted in place over Interstate 94. The new bridge will connect the neighborhoods on either side of I-94 and have improved mobility access with 9-foot sidewalks for pedestrians and cyclists alike. Drivers are encouraged to continue to drive safely in work zones as construction and management of this project continues onward through the weekend in the minor term and in the major term as they complete this project into the fall. Also making headlines today on our local news page from Bridge Michigan's team of John Osting, Zara Ahmad, and Stella Yu. Michigan's Supreme Court has said LGBTQ discrimination is barred under an existing law. Michigan businesses cannot fire employees or discriminate against customers because of their sexual orientation. The state Supreme Court ruled Thursday in a closely watched case that will greatly expand civil rights protections in the Great Lakes state. In a 5-2 ruling, the Michigan Supreme Court held that discrimination based on sexual orientation is already prohibited under the state's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, which expressly bars discrimination on the basis of sex in workplaces, housing, and places of public accommodation. Quote, discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation necessarily constitutes discrimination because of sex, said Justice Beth Clement, a Republican nominee in a majority opinion. She was joined by 4 Democratic nominees in the affirmative in this scenario. Experts say the decision reinforces federal rulings prohibiting gender identity discrimination and gives gay and transgender Michiganders clear authority to file civil rights complaints or sue business owners that fire them or deny them service based on religious or personal objections. The ruling, quote, makes Michigan a state with one of the most strong and expansive civil rights laws in the country, end close quote, said Jay Kaplan, LGBTQ project staff attorney for the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU. While Michigan's 1976 civil rights law does not mention sexual orientation explicitly in the writing of the law, and the state's Republican-led legislature has resisted calls to expand it, the original language has been applied to several other circumstances, quote, likely unanticipated by the enacting legislature, end close quote, including pregnancy discrimination and sex stereotyping cases, wrote Clement. Quote, should the legislature approve of an application of the statute's enacted language, the legislature remains free to amend the statute, end close quote. She continued on by saying, quote, this court, however, is bound by the language that the legislature has already enacted, end closed quote. Attorney General Dana Nessel, a Democrat, praised the ruling, saying, quote, our residents deserve to live in a state that recognizes the value of diversity and rejects the notion that our civil rights law could be used as a tool of discrimination, end closed quote. Continuing on, Attorney General Nessel in the statement said, quote, this ruling is not only a victory for the LGBTQ plus community, but for all Michigan residents and one that's long overdue, end closed quote. A response from Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, a Republican from Clark Lake, was very brief, saying, quote, while concerned about some aspects of the ruling, I respect the decision. All people deserve the right to be treated with dignity and respect. This includes those with firmly held religious beliefs, and close quote, he said in a statement, adding that he hopes courts will, quote, recognize our faith-based institutions and communities with respect, dignity, and rights they are clearly provided in our Constitution, and closed quote. 4 years ago, the Michigan Civil Rights Commission came to a similar conclusion as the Supreme Court did this week when it authorized the Department of Civil Rights to begin investigation complaints of discrimination against gay or transgender residents based on sexual orientation or on gender identity. But two Michigan companies accused of discrimination sued them, citing, quote, sincerely held religious beliefs, and closed quote, while arguing that the commission had usurped legislative authority by reinterpreting existing law to protect gay and transgender residents. The litigation began in 2019, and the state investigated Roush World LLC, an event center in Sturgis, whose owners refused to host a same-sex wedding ceremony, and uprooted electrolysis in Gwynn, whose operators refused to perform hair removal services for a transgender woman who was in the process of a physical transition. Michigan Court of Claims Judge Christopher Murray dismissed the sexual orientation case, citing a previous court ruling that he said was they were bound to follow. But with federal courts extending workplace protections, the Michigan Supreme Court agreed to take up the Roush World case, bypassing the Court of Appeals. In another rare move, Attorney General Nessel, a Democrat, personally argued the case before the state's highest court in March, urging justices to protect gay residents from discrimination. In her majority opinion, Justice Clement said that by declining to host Natalie Johnson and Megan Oswald's wedding, Roush World effectively discriminated against them based upon their sex. Quote, had Roush instead been a man, Roush World would not have denied its services, Clement wrote, continuing on by saying, quote, in other words, but for Johnson's sex, Roush World would have rendered its services as normal, and close quote. The Michigan ruling is the latest in a series of legal victories for gay and transgender people. In 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court similarly ruled that sex protections in a federal civil rights lawsuit prohibited workplace discrimination against gay and transgender individuals. The new ruling applies to smaller Michigan companies not subject to federal workplace laws, and it will also extend protections to gay residents in areas of public accommodation and housing, which are also covered under the state's civil rights law. Aaron Knott, executive director of Equality Michigan, an LGBTQ political advocacy group, said the ruling is, quote, an extraordinary win, and closed quote, for LGBTQ Michiganders and their allies. Quote, freedom of religion does not equal freedom to discriminate against LGBTQ people here in Michigan, she said, noting the Equality of Michigan has been petitioning the state's Civil Rights Commission to issue an interpretation of sexual orientation and gender expression that guarantees, quote, our civil rights are protected through the category of sex since 2018. Before the ruling, Knott said discrimination based on sexual orientation was not explicitly prohibited in Michigan civil rights law. That means, quote, businesses could deny services to LGBTQ patrons. We could be denied housing. We could be fired from our jobs. As of today, that is no longer the case, and closed quote. Still, Knott said her group will continue to advocate for revised language in the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act statewide because, quote, courts change and we need to make sure that we codify this into our state's constitution, and closed quote. David Kalman, an attorney who represented Roush World, could not immediately be reached for comment. Thursday in the March hearing, he argued that the state could not enact new rules not explicitly called for by the legislature when they enacted the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act in 1976. He noted that lawmakers have proposed at least 11 bills to extend anti-discrimination protections to LGBTQ residents since 1999, but had not been approved by the full legislature. In a dissent, Republican-nominated Justice Brian Zara said he took no issue with the new quote-unquote policy adopted by the majority, but argued that the court had no authority to create anti-discrimination protections that the legislature had not done themselves. Quote, this court's duty is to say what the law is, not what they think the law ought to be, and closed quote. Zara wrote, continuing on in his statement, Zara also wrote, quote, but this is exactly what a majority of this court has done here, and closed quote. In a separate dissent, Justice David Viviano argued that the majority failed to consider religious liberty protections, which are addressed under federal civil rights law, but not in the state version. Quote, this departs from the normal principle that courts will first consider whether an interpretation raises grave constitutional doubts before adopting that interpretation, end closed quote. A coalition of business groups had spent years urging the legislature to expand civil rights protections in order to help them attract and retain talented workers. Quote, the new rule is, quote, positive development in that ongoing battle, end close quote, said Sandy Barua, president and CEO of the Detroit Regional Chamber in a statement. Michael Pitt, an employment lawyer in Royal Oak, said the ruling means LGBTQ employees can now directly sue employers for discrimination over sexual orientation in court without having to file a complaint first with the state's Department of Civil Rights, which is the procedure under federal law. And they can seek limitless compensation under the state law, he said, noting that federal law caps the compensation for these such cases at $300,000. Finally, making headlines on our local news page at civiccentertv.com, this time from MLive's Mark Torregrossa. Michigan's weekend weather set to wow you. According to him, the weather across the state this weekend will be super. No storm systems are crossing the Great Lakes region this weekend. It should look like a great weekend for boating activities and other activities on the water as well. Without a storm system nearby, winds will top out at just a nice summer breeze. The wind forecasts for Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon show southwest winds steady at about less than 10 miles per hour. The only area of water that gets a little bit rough with that kind of wind is the Lake Michigan shoreline. Both weekend mornings will have beautiful temperatures in the 50s. Saturday will be the cooler of the two weekend days, but with almost perfect temperatures outdoors. By Sunday, some of the eastern lower Michigan will be approaching 90 degrees. If you want a sunny, summery weekend, don't miss out on this one ahead. All of those headlines making news on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page, as well as those ever helpful and up-to-date links on accurate information regarding COVID-19 from the Centers for Disease Control, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Up next, we'll be joined by author Kristy Sidlar, followed by Dave Garcia from Affirmations, who will join not only me, but also Larry Nyland from our My Michigan TV and Civic Center TV team at the bottom of the hour. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Oakland County. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting our website, civiccentertv.com, and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Just over a year ago, fitness instructor Christy Sidlar suffered heart failure and underwent a heart transplant at Henry Ford Health. Now she has written a book on her heart health journey to help people like you keep your cardiovascular health in check. Christy, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks very much. I'm happy to kick you off this morning.
Appreciate having you on. So take us a little bit through your story and what led you up to this point of writing your book, Change of Heart, My Journey of Transplantation, Revelation, and Transformation. It's quite an amazing story that led you to this point, and was the basis for your book.
Yeah, thank you. I was a kind of crazy athlete, actually. I was a fitness instructor back in the late 90s. I passed out in front of my class. Can you imagine your instructor just going down? The doctors at the time told me you probably didn't eat enough last night, or maybe you're a little dehydrated. But I knew in my gut something was wrong. So I kept going to the doctor and we kept trying to find something. They did diagnose me with an arrhythmia, told me that, take some drugs, don't exercise as much, but it may go away as suddenly as it came on. So do what your body can do. And that's kind of the kiss of death to tell somebody who loves to exercise. So I did more and more. And at one point I was rollerblading 50 miles. I was doing 100-mile bike rides. And I thought, well, that's not enough. Let's do a triathlon. So as I was training, I was on my bike and had an episode. It's by myself. It was 1999. I didn't have a cell phone. And for about 45 minutes, I was fading in and out of consciousness on the side of the road, just assuming that was my last birthday. Finally, another cyclist came by. The paramedics came and they shocked my heart back into a normal rhythm. And that's when I was diagnosed with my very serious condition, which was pretty rare back in the late 90s. But it was a progressive disease. And unfortunately, probably the worst news I could have heard was this disease gets worse through exercise. So I had to make a huge lifestyle change. And probably the biggest thing I realized at that moment is if I can't do what I want to do physically, although I could still walk and do yoga and some light exercise, what could I do to make the most of the situation? And that's when I really started to get involved in the American Heart Association, speaking, volunteering, and really trying to get the word out for women's health heart advocacy.
And it's really interesting too, because so many people think that people that are living a healthy lifestyle, they're eating healthy, they're exercising regularly, especially if they're in great shape. Certainly if they're a fitness instructor themselves, that their heart health in particular must be excellent. There can be nothing wrong there, but this is something that can happen really to anybody. So in terms of what you've written in your book, what sort of lessons are there in terms of the cautionary tale of really listening to your body and making sure that if something doesn't seem right, you're getting that checked out? Because in your case, Christy, it could be something severe, or if it's something minor, it could be something that's maybe able to be addressed early and not become a major issue.
Yeah, that is exactly right. I think, and women in particular, we do tend to take care of everyone else first. We tend to put ourselves last. We tend to brush things off. We have a lot of stressors in life. We're moms, we're not getting enough sleep. We have menstrual cycles that can kind of mess with us. So I think a lot of times we do tend to either ourselves dismiss it, or sometimes we're dismissed by doctors. And I think we just need to really advocate for ourselves. I always recommend to people, walk into your doctor's appointment with a list of questions. Make sure you don't leave that room until you have those questions answered. You can be a little bold. This is a time to be an advocate for yourself and really stick up for yourself. Doctors are busy, but your health is very important. So I think that's a big piece, is just listen to your body. We do have good gut instincts, and just keep going back and making sure that you're getting the answers that you need. I think though, one of the things, heart health obviously is incredibly important, and really it is the number one killer in America of men and women. It kills more people than all cancers combined and car accidents. So it is something, 80% is preventable. And so I think we need to look at not just what the issues could be, but how can we prevent it? And then aside from that, it's not just our physical health. And part of what I write about in my book is there are multiple dimensions of wellness that we need to focus on. That's physical, emotional, social, spiritual, financial, and vocational. And I really believe the fact that prior to my surgery, and as I was going through all of my heart failure, that's what caused me to recover as well as I did, because I was looking at the bigger picture and I was making sure that I had a good social network and that I was being physically active and I had good emotional wellness. So I think there's really a lot to take in when you want to look at the big picture of how to stay healthy as a human.
We're joined by Christy Sidlar. She is the author of Change of Heart, My Journey of Transplantation, Revelation, and Transformation, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Christy, you mentioned earlier that you had these issues. You had felt that something was a little bit off. You went to your doctors and they had suggested, okay, maybe dial back your exercise intensity a little bit to try to help prevent similar fainting spells in the future. And you continued on, maybe gradually, but getting back to that rate regardless, and had those issues. How important is it, as people are addressing these issues or trying to figure out what might be going on with them, to not only take the consultation of their medical professionals in their life very seriously, but as you said, to ask those questions? What sort of questions should they be asking when they're going through that, so that they can get the insight they really need to know about their situation and be ready to adjust their lifestyle based on that?
Yeah. And you brought up earlier that, I was a young, healthy woman. I absolutely was not the poster child for heart disease, but what I was the poster child for was a huge history of cardiovascular disease in my family. So I think the first thing is to make sure you're addressing with yourself and checking with your loved ones, do we have heart health history in our family? So I think that's the biggest piece, is make sure you're talking with your doctor about your history. Also, there is a great tool on heart.org, that's the American Heart Association's website, called Life's Essential 8. And it's looking at things like sleep, the use of nicotine, your physical movement, your diet, your cholesterol is a big number, your blood pressure is a big number, your blood glucose is a big number. So making sure, and if you can go and print that diagram out and just check how you're doing with each of those areas, but make sure your doctors are giving you those tests. And then the last I will say, which I'm a big proponent of, is a test called the calcium scoring test. And unfortunately, a lot of doctors don't bring it up. It's not covered by insurance, although it's not very expensive, but it is the gold standard test to know if you have any blockage or if you have any thickening of your artery walls. And blockage is the number one reason for having a heart attack. So talk to your primary care doctors about the calcium scoring test and see, especially if you have history, if you can get that test ordered.
We're joined by Kristy Sidlar, author of Change of Heart, My Journey of Transplantation, Revelation, and Transformation, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Kristy, as you went through your process and then went through a transplant, and the transplant happened about a year after you began experiencing your heart failure situation. When did the idea of writing a book about your experiences and trying to help other people through a similar journey or a completely different journey that's kind of on the same route, when did that idea of writing a book come into play, and what did you really want to get out of writing this book?
Yeah. First of all, can I commend you at how well you've been mentioning my title? Almost everybody stumbles over it. So well done. But one of the words in the title is revelation. And I truly did have a very specific revelation when I was in the hospital. So I was a couple days out of my surgery. I was finally coming to be a little bit more alert. And I got to thinking about, there were a couple older men on the other side of me in the ICU. And I went home to a very strong social network. I'm a disciplined person. I knew that going to my cardiac rehab was important. I knew the basics of nutrition. I just kind of had all of the right ingredients to having a strong recovery. And I realized that not everybody had that. And again, that's part of why I created my wellness widget, which really does look at these 6 dimensions of wellness. But for me, I thought I've had this small sphere of people in my life who have been able to see my positive attitude, who have been able to see how I work in these different dimensions of wellness. And it was just really important for me to get that message out to others. So this book is not, it's about my transplant journey, but it's not about if you have a transplant or if you're going to get a transplant, this is the book you should read. This is for everyone. This is a book to realize that our mental state, the way we approach issues, not worrying, being able to look at other ways that we can stay healthy holistically. Those are the tools I want to get into people's hands. And that was the reason for writing the book.
Another word in that title is transformation. And it kind of goes back to revelation also, in that you had a certain lifestyle you were living. You were very disciplined in that lifestyle. And even after going through heart failure and getting a heart transplant, for some, I would presume you get that new heart and you think, okay, well, the old heart was the issue. It's not the heart I have now. I can, build myself back up and get right back into those similar habits. For you, how tough was it to curb that mode of thought? And B, what did you do then to readjust your lifestyle with your new heart to ensure that your health was still in check? And how does that then translate to what other people should be doing as they consider their lifestyle after going through similar episodes?
Yeah, I have to say, and not to be flip, but it was so easy for me because of 2 reasons. One, I just received the greatest gift somebody could give me. So to honor that, it was not about going back to old habits or trying to dishonor what she has given me. But I think the other piece for me specifically, it had been 22 years since I had run. So to be able to know that, of course, I listened to my doctors. I did the very slow path through my cardiac rehab. I might have been a little stubborn and asked for a little more than they wanted to give me. But as soon as I was able to, put one foot in front of the other at a faster pace than I was doing before, that was absolute pure joy to me. So I think in looking at anybody who goes through a life-changing experience, and, in my case, multiple times, facing death, there is a perspective shift. And I think, for me to be able to come in and say, how do I make the best of this situation? And for me, how do I make up for all this lost time? And, I think if we look at just life in general, life is short. And, whether it's putting boundaries around people that give me energy versus people who suck out my energy, or how do I make myself more physically active, or how can I look at small changes? I'm really big on don't quit things cold turkey. Don't go and make some huge shift. Small incremental changes to get us to a place where each day, each month, each year, we're a little better than we were before.
Yeah, setbacks are just setbacks. And if you approach it from an angle of, okay, I've taken a step back, now I got to take a couple more steps forward and go at it gradually, eventually you'll get back to that point and break beyond it, and it'll be like nothing happened. So those setbacks, that really is where it's important to be in the right mindset and to have the right psychological state or put yourself in the right psychological mode to break through those periods, especially for someone like you that went through this experience. And I can't speak for it, but I would imagine not only physically, but also psychologically, this is a traumatic experience. And so coming back from that, after that experience, how much more important did you then realize, and you've mentioned this lightly so far, that the mental and the psychological aspects of your journey in your recovery especially, but also in maintaining your healthy lifestyle going forward?
Yeah, so it's interesting going into a transplant. The testing is extremely rigorous. Not only do they want to do all the cardiac tests, but they need to make sure that they're giving a heart to someone who will take care of that. And that's a lot of different dimensions of taking care of it. Meaning, am I psychologically stable enough to make sure I'm taking, when I got out of the hospital, I was taking 32 pills a day. Am I going to be able to cognitively take care of that? Am I abusing alcohol? Am I going to, do I have some kind of disease that's going to shorten my life where this gift should not be given to me? So a part of that, again, I did seek psychological help prior to as part of my evaluation. And that's a big component afterward. A lot of transplant patients have survivor's guilt, thinking that somebody's life ended because of me, which is not the case. But again, somebody died for me to be able to live. So yes, there's a huge component of all of these areas. And again, I have just made a really strong commitment to ensuring that my mental health, my emotional state is as well as it could be. And whether that's making sure that I'm seeking more from my social circle, or if it's looking at talking to a professional, meditation, being able to take a step back. There's so much talk these days about self-care. That's very, very important to do some introspection, do some breathing exercises, get an app that's on your phone. My favorite is called Insight Timer. And there's 2-minute to 20-minute to 1 hour little meditations that are guided. Those things are really important to get yourself centered and just be able to relieve some of the stress, whether it's everyday life or some crazy situation like I was going through.
Changeofheartmemoir.com is the website. That's changeofheartmemoir.com to learn more information. You can also find Kristy's book on Amazon.com and on Target and on their website, Target.com, as well as Barnes & Noble's website, barnesandnoble.com. We're joined by Christy Sidlar. She is the author of Change of Heart, My Journey of Transplantation, Revelation, and Transformation on the Oakland County Megacast. Christy, if someone's going through a similar battle that you went through with a heart failure, with a transplant, this is a great book for them. But what about this book, about the story you're telling, about the lessons you're providing from your experiences? What about this book is good for more of a general population in reevaluating their life, their lifestyles, and how to address their overall health in general?
That's the key right there. It's overall health. I think, much like fitness instructors talk about, you can't spot train something or you can't spot lose weight. You can't spot be healthy if you're just trying to focus on one thing. I'm just going to go to the gym. That's how I'm going to be healthy. There are way many other things in our sphere of how we look at wellness. And I think, I'll close by saying that much like when you're on an airplane and the flight attendant says, if we have air pressure issues and the airbag drops down, who's the first person you're supposed to put it on? Yourself. We can't take care of others if we're not healthy. So if we look at our sphere of our family and our friends and our careers, we have to take care of ourselves first. And again, try something small, take an incremental change, pick one thing. If you look at those 6 dimensions of wellness, pick one component within one thing, but make a change and be willing to fail. I always like to say commit, forgive, commit. Commit to something, know you're going to have a setback, brush it off, don't quit, go back and try it again, and know that we're going to have that cycle going around and around, but you got to keep committing to get better. So yeah, the book is much, much more than just about having a transplant. It is really about how to look at what we can do to have a fulfilling life and feel much more holistically well throughout our journey.
Christy, anything else that we should know about a change of heart or about this journey you've gone through that would be important for our audience to consider or to keep in mind as they're reading your book?
I really believe that so much of how I've been able to, my surgery was quicker than it should have been. My recovery was quicker than it should have been. I've had a really great journey. And people tell me this all the time, but it is about my positive attitude. And I think there's so much to be said for mind over matter and being able to look at things. Again, I'm not a worrier. Stress can be such a killer. Physically, it can be a killer, but it can be a killer in so much of how you can receive joy and progress in your life in a positive way. So, I think not worrying and trying to look at the glass as half full as possible. Those are, simple, maybe Pollyanna, but ways to look at trying to live a healthy, more fulfilling life.
Christy, appreciate you joining us.
Of course. Thanks very much.
Changeofheartmemoir.com to learn more information. You can also find Change of Heart on the websites of Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, and more. Again, changeofheartmemoir.com is where you can find all the information you need to know about Kristy's book. We appreciate her joining us. We're going to take a break on the Oakland County Megacast. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dave Garcia from Affirmations, who's also now part of Oakland County's new monkeypox task force. Larry Nyland will join me, and we'll talk to Dave Garcia about the monkeypox situation, its impact on the LGBTQ plus community in Oakland County, not just because of the higher number of cases in the LGBTQ plus community across the board with monkeypox at this time, but also because of the way that those metrics are stigmatizing this as a quote unquote gay disease. And that's not the case. He'll talk about that, the impact of those factors on Oakland County's response to monkeypox and more when we come back. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabi Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabi Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Oakland County. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast is the Director of Affirmations in Ferndale LGBTQ+ advocacy group, as well as one of the members of Oakland County's new monkeypox task force, Dave Garcia. And as we go into this, Dave, we think about monkeypox as it currently stands. The majority of the number of cases across the board, not just in Oakland County, but across the board, are in the LGBTQ plus community. And that brings us to two different points. A, we look back at parallels to the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the 80s when that major outbreak worldwide was first going on. A lot of those cases in the LGBTQ plus community, particularly amongst gay men, and that made that disease kind of get stigmatized as being a gay disease. It definitely brought up some apprehension and also led to even further stigmatization of gay communities. And that's something that really we want to avoid, and we want to avoid in addressing monkeypox, because it's not just a disease that affects people in the LGBTQ plus community. Monkeypox can spread between anybody making any physical contact with somebody that has one of the monkeypox rashes or other factors leading to that disease. And so, Dave, as you and the monkeypox task force begin their work addressing this virus in Oakland County, which currently stands as having the largest sum of cases in the state of Michigan, how does that play in to try to make sure that this is addressed, not only is addressed in the LGBTQ plus community, but isn't stigmatized as being a gay disease?
Very important for us to not label this a gay disease. This is not a gay disease, but we also have to be realistic that it got a head start in the LGBTQ community. And so we have to do our best as leaders to protect our community, the LGBTQ community. But we cannot make the same mistakes of the past because, again, this is not a gay or straight disease. It just got like I said, it got started, it appears in our community. And so it is in our community, and we have a responsibility to protect our community from it.
We're joined by Dave Garcia. He is from Affirmations, located in Oakland County. He's also a member of Oakland County's task force addressing monkeypox if it spreads in Oakland County. Currently, 8 cases of monkeypox in Oakland County, 19 total in the state. Oakland County, highest number of cases in the county. So Dave, this is a new task force that's been formed by Executive Coulter. What discussion have there been any meetings formally of the monkeypox task force in Oakland County thus far? And so far, where are the conversations, if so, focused on as the county addresses this issue?
Sure. We have not had our first meeting as of this point. We are in communication. I happen to be on vacation right now. I'm actually joining you from Portugal. And when I get back, I'll be back in Ferndale on Friday. And I believe our first meeting is scheduled for Monday at Affirmations. So we are trying to do this as quickly as possible so we can get information out to our community. You know, before I left on this vacation, I think it's interesting to note that I tried to get a vaccine in my country at Be Well Medical, and they did not have the vaccine. And then ironically, when I was in Montreal for a week, they set up shop in the middle of the gay village. And I said, I'm an American citizen. And they said, it doesn't matter. And I got my shot in Montreal. So I was not able to get vaccinated in the United States, but was able just 2 weeks ago vaccinated in Montreal, Canada. So what we really need right now is more vaccines so that we can get out ahead of this. Right now, they're only giving vaccines to those that have already got monkeypox. So we need to make sure that our community, the LGBTQ community especially, because that's where it is spreading right now, gets vaccination, gets vaccine. Affirmations has been doing COVID vaccinations for a long time now. We and our community partners like Corktown and others, Be Well Medical, can get people vaccinated, but we need the vaccine, and that's going to have to come from the feds.
So Dave, can I ask you about the experience of getting the vaccine? Did you have any side effects from it at all?
I didn't. No, they said much like COVID that I might have fever, but I didn't. A sore arm, but nothing big at all. And I thought it was great. It was very easy. Again, what I was most impressed with in Montreal is that they set up tents right in the middle of the street of the gay village. And we're giving away the vaccinations. We're giving vaccinations for free to the citizens there in Montreal.
We're joined by Dave Garcia from Affirmations, located in Ferndale. Joining us on the Oakland County Megacast, Dave is also a member of the new monkeypox task force that's been formed by Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter. And Dave, as you're addressing this issue, particularly from your point of view, being that you are leading an organization that advocates for the LGBTQ plus community, on the one hand, you want to make sure that this is a community that's being so heavily affected in terms of the full numbers of COVID of monkeypox cases in Oakland County at this time and in the world at this time, that they're being safe and being careful, taking the proper precautions. At the same time, you want to make sure that this community that is a marginalized community is still able to have that kind of regular, close contact with each other that is so necessary in communities that are marginalized like this. So what is your message at this moment in time to those in the LGBTQ plus community regarding monkeypox, keeping themselves safe, but also recognizing that this isn't necessarily a widespread concern at this time in terms of community spread?
Right. I think we need to make sure that we get out in front of this. It is our responsibility to advocate, whether that is with our senators, particularly our congresspeople, to put pressure on the federal government to get more vaccination made and distributed to cities around the United States before this gets a lot worse. And, again, reminding our community that while this is not a gay disease, it is in our community. And we need to be realistic about that. We need to be safe about that. And we need to work together to stay out in front of this disease.
So Dave, can I ask
you from Affirmations? Oh, please, Larry, go ahead.
Excuse me, Scott. Yeah, Dave, I just want to get, so what are you hearing from the LGBTQ plus community in Metro Detroit? Are people concerned about it, or is it still just kind of an afterthought right now?
I think people are becoming more and more concerned about it. We're seeing stories around the United States, New York, Los Angeles, outbreaks in Texas, and it is something that especially gay men right now are talking a lot about. Not just the United States. I spent a week in Toronto and a week in Montreal, and I have a week here in Lisbon. That, like I said, I fly home tomorrow. Everyone in the gay community in these areas have all been talking about monkeypox. I'm seeing a lot of literature throughout the gay villages and the gay communities in those three cities. And I know that that's happening. I'm on the board of directors of Centerlink, which is the national LGBTQ community centers network in the United States, 350 community centers. And we're talking about this, and we're trying to get information out and posted without scaring people, but again, being realistic that this virus is prevalent in our community. Prevalent might be a little strong of a word, like you said. I don't want to scare people, but if we don't get out in front of this, and if we don't get vaccination, and if we don't get those people vaccinated, I think things could get worse.
We're joined by Dave Garcia. He is one of the members of the Oakland County Task Force to prevent monkeypox that was just announced this morning from Dave Coulter, the Oakland County Executive, in a press conference. That will be on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast this afternoon. Speaking on vaccines, just for reference, as Executive Coulter had mentioned, currently about 1,800 vaccine from the federal government, from the federal government's national strategic stockpile is in the state of Michigan. 340 of those currently in Oakland County. They are not using them for preventative measures. More is expected to be in the county, according to Executive Coulter's discussions with the federal government, with the CDC and the White House by August, and even more than that by October. But of course, that is a great timeline. We're joined by Dave Garcia from Affirmations, which is located in Ferndale and is a LGBTQ plus advocacy organization. You can learn more information from Affirmations by going to their website, goaffirmations.org. Dave, another couple minutes with you before we'll need to say goodbye today. Anything else at this time? Any other messages you have for the LGBTQ plus community, or more info we should know at this time on the task force?
Be safe, be smart. We will be putting all this information up on our website and getting it out to all of the community centers around the state of Michigan. In fact, we have a call on this today. So we will be distributing all the information that we have. I'm glad to see the leadership of Dave Coulter putting this task force together of experts in our county and around the area. If we work together and we communicate well and we can get that vaccine, we'll get out in front of this before it gets worse.
Goaffirmations.org is the website for Affirmations. Dave, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you all.
We're going to take a short break on the Megacast. On the other side, we'll kick off the Michigan Megacast on your radio homes for the program. 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills with Dr. Melanie Schwartz, who will help take us through the psychological toll of large financial windfalls, including what's expected to come if someone does win the full jackpot in Friday night's drawing of the Mega Millions. This is the Michigan Megacast.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabi Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft, welcoming you to our live 5 days a week look into all things Michigan. Today, we'll be talking to mental health professionals, hazmat safety experts, and more about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders like you. Learn more about the program by visiting our Megacast page on civiccentertv.com on our flagship's website, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including our co-flagship for the Michigan Megacast, My Michigan TV. Friday's Mega Millions jackpot drawing could change someone's life drastically in just a matter of a few seconds and a small set of numbers. But the impact of a lottery win doesn't stop once your numbers are drawn or the check is written. Here to talk about that and more is Dr. Melanie Schwartz from Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness. Dr. Schwartz, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So there's a lot of buzz about Friday night's Mega Millions drawing. Over $1 billion would be the windfall for someone if they get all the numbers correctly, and they are the only one to draw such a number. $1.02 billion. That's the third largest potential windfall in the history of Mega Millions. Just a small margin away from the second, and of course the largest winning was just a few years ago in South Carolina. So let's talk about lottery fever and why this gets people these sort of headlines and this sort of exorbitant number that's coming up for this particular jackpot gets so many more people involved, because the odds don't change whether you played the lottery 2 weeks ago at that point in time, or you're playing it tonight. In fact, if more people are abuzz about it and more people are playing it, the likelihood that you are going to win may even be a little bit lower. So what really draws people to this, despite knowing that those odds aren't changing?
Because people see a big number. They don't really understand large numbers. So people don't look at the odds. They don't think about the odds. They just see, well, it's over $1 billion. It's a small amount to play. I'm going to try because you know what? There's a chance I could win. They don't look at the chance of winning is 1 in 303 million, which is, I mean, to think about that, that's crazy. But people don't think about that. All they think about is, well, there is a chance and people do win. We see the outcome. We see that people do win. So maybe it could be me. So they try. And obviously the bigger the number, the more opportunity or in their heads. And so people play the lottery.
And people that do this, so often what can happen is people will buy a bunch of tickets. They'll put down a bunch of different numbers. They'll get all their hopes up and start thinking about, well, what will I do if I win? What will I take the lump sum? Will I take the 30-year annuity? What will I do with all the money? Who will I tell? Who will I not tell? They go through all these different scenarios and then they end up losing because the odds aren't in their favor. Somebody else wins. That all goes away and you're kind of left with this empty pit of, well, what did I do this for? Mm-hmm. How do you suggest people work through that? And really even beyond that, before that, why do people get to go through all those scenarios before they even know if they're winning?
Because it's a fantasy and it's fun to think about and take your mind off of your day-to-day stresses and worries and think about something that could happen that's enjoyable and what life could be like if you had that amount of money rather than, what life is like right now for them and how that would change. I mean, obviously we see, on TV or read about just, how great people's lives are when they have all this money. We don't see the day-to-day and the reality of it, but, it's glorified and people think that it is what they want. So, and life will be easier if you just have all this money. So people think about it and fantasize about it and just don't focus on, it's much more enjoyable to focus on that than it is to focus on what's going on in your life right now.
And what's often overlooked, Dr. Schwartz, is in the situation of somebody that does win this amount of money or wins a fraction of this amount of money, if there are multiple people that have the right combination of numbers in this scenario with the Mega Millions drawing, is what comes after that? Because those events that come after that have a significant impact on people's lives as well. Many will try to remain as anonymous as possible so as to not have all the fanfare surrounding them or following them and people popping up in their lives that haven't been in there for forever. But all of that can be exceedingly stressful too, trying to manage that part of your life. And so that should also be something that's being considered by people playing in these lotteries, particularly when there's such a large potential output as there is tonight, is the impact that winning and the circumstances of that victory can have on you afterward.
Yes, should is the word. Yes, people should think about it. They don't. And, I don't think anyone would know what to do with that amount of money if they had that amount of money. And they just think about the ways that they would spend it, not the reality of it or, what people are going to think if they know about it. I do think it's safer for people not to tell people about it if they do win, for a variety of reasons. But I think that, there may be, it's hard to come up with a plan ahead of time because, nobody knows what to do with that necessarily. But I think, if you are one of the people who is lucky enough to win, whether it's all of it or part of it or a large amount of it, then I think it's important to, sit down with somebody that you trust or multiple people that you trust and have that conversation about what you're going to do with it and how to go forward. Working through anything, any type of problem, the best thing to do is to be able to talk to somebody about it. Have that community, have that support around you, and then you are able to make better, healthier decisions than if you're trying to do it on your own. So.
And even before that, you think about the situation. You even said that people aren't often thinking about that when they are going into the situation because the likelihood of them winning is so small that's not even a consideration. But we talk about people thinking about what am I going to do with the money if I win? This is my plan. These are the things I want to do. This is what I'm going to buy the first day after. But they don't think about that other side. Where does that difference come into play psychologically between someone imagining what they're going to win? Of course, there's an element of fantasy versus that bit of reality too that should also be there of, well, what do I do if my numbers come up?
Well, the reality is when we're thinking about it in terms of fantasy, it's really reptilian child part of our brain that just kind of makes impulsive decisions and isn't really thinking about the logical piece of it. So, when somebody is buying a lottery ticket, that's the part of the brain that's in use at the time. But then if they do win, then the adult side of the brain has to kick in and really think about the consequences of it. It's not all, fun and games. There is a lot of consequences to it. And being able to, approach it from a different perspective. So, it's one side that gets you a lottery ticket, and then it's another side if you win. So there's a big contrast and a big piece there that will get in the way of knowing how to think about it. And there's the initial shock if you do win also that comes into play also. So there's a lot of factors that people just they're not considering, they're not thinking about. It's just, okay, lottery system out here, I'm going to play. And then I'll deal with everything else later on. So, but I think, again, if you are lucky enough to win and be in that position, then there has to be a lot of support on your end to be able to make decisions going forward with that.
We're joined by Dr. Melanie Schwartz from Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness on the Michigan Megacast. Dr. Schwartz, changing gears as we are getting out of the month of July and going into the month of August. We're approaching back to school time. As wild as it is to think about that, with school having it feels like it just got out. For students going back to school, there's certain stresses that come along with that for students and for parents. On the student side, for those in particular who may not like school or may have some less than stellar experiences at school, what is your suggestion for parents and for other adults in their life to help them prepare psychologically to return to that environment and maybe even inspire some inspiration as they're heading back to school this fall?
Well, it's interesting that I'm talking about this right now, because my clients have actually started to talk about it this week, whether it was my college kids or, my younger clients. But we are starting to talk about it, especially the ones who don't enjoy going to school because, they struggle academically or socially or whatever it might be. And it is hard. It's a big stressor. They have that, they're free of that all summer long. And then, when you have to start talking about school again, about a month before it starts, then the anxiety starts to kick in again. A lot of times we really have to focus on what are the things you do like about school? There generally is one or two things that they do like, even if they might have to think really, really hard about it, but there is something. And to really focus on that and figure out ways to kind of, exaggerate that for them and help them focus on that. Sometimes it helps we call it reframing, help them look at school in a different way than just, I hate this. I have to go and sit in a classroom, not understanding what I'm learning, or just sit through boring classes, or, the kids at my school are mean, or whatever it might be. Help them look at school in a different way in, what it's actually teaching you and how it's benefiting you rather than what you don't like about it. Because there are things about school that you are going to learn from, even if it's not taking a math class. You're still learning something from math that you will use in life. Maybe it's not calculus or geometry, but there are aspects that you will learn, such as problem solving, and just teach them to look at it in a different way than they're currently looking at it. And that seems to help them get through it a little easier.
We're joined by Dr. Melanie Schwartz on the Michigan Megacast. She is from Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness, joining us on today's program. As we also talk about back to school, you mentioned it. It's very interesting to consider it, because often when we talk about back to school, we focus on younger children in particular, or those in high school that are getting ready for big times in their life. We don't often talk about back to school in terms of our adult children, our college students, and particularly those that are going off to school for the first time. This is an extremely stressful experience for so many, in that it's different. It's a major change. You're off on your own for the first time. So what's some considerations that should be made, both from parents, but also from these young adults themselves, as they're heading into that environment, into that great unknown, and preparing really for the first time their full independent experience in a new environment?
I think from a parent perspective, it's very scary, because it's the first time your child's out of the nest. And it's not, if it's your first child out of the nest, you don't know what to expect or what it will be like, and you're not going to have the same control that you have when they're in your house. So it's really being able to talk to other people who have been through it, and give them tips on how to get through having an empty nest, or even just, having one child gone, and really learning from other parents who have already been through it. in terms of kids, and I feel like I work with kids on this every year when they're starting college. It's stressful for them. They don't know anything else. They've never known anything except being at home for the most part. And to leave their home and their comfort and their safety to go to this place that they have no idea what to expect and what it's going to be like, it creates a lot of anxiety. And I think it's okay for them to be anxious. That's very normal for them. And I think it's important to normalize it, that all of their friends are feeling the same way. Some more than others, but they're all feeling the same way. To talk to each other about it, talk to their parents about it, talk to people who are in college and what they experienced with it, and just, have your supports in place, because it's a huge transition, and it can be difficult. It can be more difficult for some rather than others, but majority of the kids I work with, they go, they love it. They, have a great time. And they're like, I don't understand why I was so worried about it before, but it's normal to have that anticipation anxiety, and just to normalize it for them is important.
And so much of finding that comfort or finding just that at basic level, that equilibrium in the college environment is the social side of things. It's something that when I went off to school, I really struggled with. And I think that did play into a factor of my experience there taking a little bit longer to really get to that point of comfort than I particularly would have liked to. So for students that are going off to college, and so much of that experience being a social experience on top of being an educational experience, what's some advice you have for them in terms of going into that sort of a social environment that where there is so much stimulus, there is so much activity, there's so many different people there, and you've ever been really experiencing an educational environment before, to put their best foot forward, but in a way that's comfortable for them and not necessarily rushing them into a situation that could be very, very anxiety driven?
I think there's a wide variety of ways to approach this, because you're going to have your kids who are very outgoing and so excited to get there and socialize, and they have to learn the balance of what they can do. And so they're excited to go meet new friends and go, be part of the sorority or fraternities, or, go join all sorts of clubs and groups and teams, and some of them take on too much and it becomes very overwhelming for them. So I think they have to learn, and that's just through trial and error, how to balance that so that they can do their schoolwork and also enjoy their social life. The kids who are more introverted and struggle a little bit more socially, they also have to learn for themselves. Like, what's their comfort level? Where can they push themselves? Where do they have to kind of stay back a little bit and get their alone time and balance it out for themselves? So it looks different on different, ends of the spectrum, but it still comes down to that balance and figuring out for yourself where your comfort zone is, and pushing your comfort zone a little bit, but not too much where it's just going to create too much anxiety for you.
Dr. Schwartz, you touched on it just a little bit when we were first initially talking about college students going off to school for the first time, and parents becoming empty nesters, particularly those that are doing that for the first time. You gave some advice on how they can initiate that process, but it's well beyond just having their kids outside of the house for the first time and being independent that has an impact on parents. So for parents, what can they do to work through that new scenario in their life on their own without necessarily being burdensome to their kids, or checking in too often necessarily as their kids are out there?
I think they have to learn for themselves. It's a transition for them too. They have to learn how to be something other than parents again. Some parents are better at it than others, but they have to be able to, you spend 18 years focusing on your kids, and then all of a sudden everything is about the kids. And then all of a sudden they're not there and they're living their own lives, and you have to figure out what your life looks like again. So I think there's a learning curve with that, of understanding and picking up new hobbies, or taking on old hobbies, or making some new friends, or figuring out what you want your life to look like now, so that you can focus on yourself rather than how you've spent the last 18 years. And it's difficult for a lot of parents, and there's definitely a learning curve with it. And it's just, it just takes some time. And again, trial and error, whether it's on the kid's side or on the parent side, there's still trial and error with it.
We're joined by Dr. Melanie Schwartz from Viewpoint Psychology and Wellness on the Michigan Megacast. Dr. Schwartz, another minute or two with you before we'll need to say goodbye today. Anything else at this time that people should be keeping in mind psychologically, or other stressors that are out there that are commonly being seen in your practice and among your colleagues that we should be keeping mindful of and working toward coping with?
I think the world is scarier than I think it's been in a long time for people, or where people are aware of it. and it's really affecting people. It's affecting their moods. People are more angry across the board, which really comes from anxiety, and being able to recognize that. And there's just a lot of emotions that are running wild right now, and people are having a hard time dealing with it. They really are. And I think, you have zero control over someone else's behavior. You do control your own behavior, and making sure you're working on yourself constantly and recognizing, how my behavior impacts others, the things that are stressing me out. How can I cope with it in an effective way? If you don't know how, then, talk to family, talk to friends, talk to a therapist, somebody, so that you can, you're not part of the problem that's out there, that you're part of the solution. And I think that if more of us did that, then we'd be in a better place. But people are very reactive right now, and for a lot of different reasons, understandably. And it's hard. It's hard to navigate right now.
Dr. Schwartz, appreciate your insight on all these variety of topics and helping us through what is continuing to be a tough and more interesting time day by day. Thank you very much.
Of course.
We're going to take a break on the Michigan Megacast. When we come back, avoiding hazards in the home and outdoors as we continue through this 2022 summer. This is the Michigan Megacast.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacasts, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the Michigan Megacast is Dr. Varun Vora. He is the clinical director at the Michigan Poison Center, a service of Wayne State University, to tell us about all the hazards indoors and outdoors we are seeing so far this summer and will continue to see and need to be aware of at this time. Dr. Vora, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So we are, of course, in the middle of summer now, or just about through the month of July at the time that we are taping this. And that doesn't mean that the potential poison concerns or other hazards in the home and outside in Michigan go away, because we're already fully into the summer. What are some of the more common summer poison concerns in the home that people may run into?
Yeah, I think you kind of alluded to the fact that, outside the home, a lot of people are outside, the weather's a lot better. So things that are kind of associated with that would be things like, insect repellent as well. So especially with kids. So we want to make sure that, you're using those products only on your skin, and that adults and caregivers are the ones applying it to children. The common ingredient is usually DEET. So DEET, many people have probably heard of it. You want to make sure that if you are using a product like that or any other insect kind of repellent, that you're applying it only on the skin. You're not putting it on your hands. You're not putting it all over your face per se. And DEET, the active ingredient in many of those repellents, can be pretty toxic in higher concentrations. So you always want to make sure you want to look at the concentrations. Anything over 30% of DEET, you want to avoid using in young children, especially like infants. And then there are other alternatives available. So picaridin is another one that's pretty common amongst insect repellents and has shown to be relatively safer compared to DEET. And then on the other side, when people do get stung or bit by an insect or say like a bee sting, first and foremost, if anyone's having trouble breathing, whether you feel their airways closing or they have a lot of swelling in the neck or the face, you want to make sure you want to call 911, because that could be a true anaphylaxis. And if someone does have a known allergy, the use of an EpiPen, always have that handy, especially if obviously you have a known allergy. And in the event that you do get stung, there's certain ways that if you can see the stinger, you could use sort of a blunt edge of, say, like a credit card or some sort of object or a card, to sort of try and pry that stinger loose if you can see it, and just kind of sort of scrape the surface of the skin, if that's possible. Otherwise, there are barbecues happening, a lot of people picnicking, etc. So food safety is obviously an ongoing issue with grilling and barbecues. So making sure that you're keeping hot foods hot, cold foods cold, especially the colder foods. So things like when you get into meats, poultry, fish, things of that nature, making sure that you're storing them in separate containers from other food items. Also, when you're preparing them, making sure that you're preparing them away from the other food items that are going to be consumed, like fruits and vegetables, etc. Hand hygiene is going to be a really important component. Regularly washing your hands in between preparing different types of foods, especially when it comes to the meats. And never leaving, cold foods outside of a cooler for more than 1 to 2 hours, especially like, today or this past week has been really hot. So when it gets over 90 degrees, you want to make sure that you're keeping foods inside, or not keeping foods outside the cooler for more than an hour. And, with celebrations, fireworks is a big thing. I know we had the 4th of July. And, there's some more holidays that are going to be coming up where people are going to be celebrating with fireworks. So, July was National Firework Safety Month, actually. So always want to be on the lookout and vigilant when using fireworks in terms of safety. The little even sparklers that kids use can get really hot, so up to like 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So making sure that you're exercising more common sense and safety precautions, so not handling lit fireworks, keeping kids and everyone at a safe distance away from lit fireworks. Eye protection is always a good thing. Having a bucket of water nearby is really important as well. And in the event that fireworks are ingested for any reason, and that does happen, we do get calls about that at the Poison Center. Do not make anybody vomit. These products have pretty caustic or corrosive substances in them, different types of metals like barium, lithium, nitrates as well, which can be very irritating and damaging to the airways and the throat. Do not force vomiting. So call us or call 911 right away if that does happen, because it can be really serious, especially in kids.
We're joined by Dr. Vern Vora from the Michigan Poison Center on the Michigan Megacast. You can find more information from the Michigan Poison Center by visiting their website at poison.med.wayne.edu, or just search Michigan Poison Center, including on the Wayne State University website. It is a service of Wayne State University. We're joined, of course, by their academic director and clinical toxicologist, Dr. Varun Vora. Dr. Vora, also pretty interesting, as there's so many people that are visiting our waterways in the state of Michigan, whether it be the Great Lakes or some of our many inland lakes. The state wants to warn on harmful algal blooms in the Great Lakes, and also on certain foams that do form on the shorelines of water bodies, and why people should be concerned about that. Can you give us some insight?
Yeah, I mean, that's been sort of a common thing, especially, in the state, like you mentioned, and these can be harmful. They can contain, certain types of bacteria as well. So we're always on the lookout for that. We do get calls about it every now and again, and we want to make sure that, in the event that they're, check with your local municipalities and regions to see whether there are sort of active algal blooms in those waterways or areas where people will be sort of vacationing or during their getaways or their recreational times, and to avoid obviously ingesting that type of water. Be careful with kids when they're going into it, especially with pets as well, because they can be also susceptible. So check with your local district as well, making sure that there are nothing identified in your local region. But otherwise, they can lead to certain complications. A lot of potential GI effects, more gastrointestinal, acutely, and then we want to avoid obviously any sort of bacterial infection with water, especially. So if you have any more, questions or information, feel free to call us. The number is 1-800-222-1222. And we can obviously help with that in your specific region to see if there's any sort of areas to be wary of.
1-800-222-1222 is the phone number. Again, 1-800-222-1222 is the 24/7 free expert poison help from the Michigan Poison Center. We're joined by the academic director of the Michigan Poison Center, as well as a clinical toxicologist, Dr. Varun Vora, on the Michigan Megacast. Dr. Vora, as kids are, of course, having busy schedules, much like adults in the state of Michigan, and of course with other stimuli in their life from devices and social media and whatever it be, some are having a lot of trouble falling asleep, and so they've turned to a substance known as melatonin, commonly used by adults as a sleep aid. Can you tell us about what parents should be aware of in terms of melatonin, if they're giving it to their kids, if their kids are taking it, and precautions people should take if they are taking melatonin to aid them in sleep?
Yeah, so there's a recent study that I was a part of, looking at sort of nationwide pediatric ingestions of melatonin. And by and large, we do get calls on melatonin, and for the most part, they're relatively benign ingestions and exposures. So I want to be clear about that. But there have been times where people have gotten in trouble with that, especially kids, where it can have more significant outcomes. Now, I think one of the most important things is letting caregivers and parents know that, to make sure that you've talked to a healthcare professional, whether it's a physician or a pharmacist, beforehand, before giving it to anybody else or even taking it themselves. It is a dietary supplement still. So it kind of undergoes a different type of scrutiny and regulations compared to actual prescription medications. But making sure that it's indicated for the child, and you're adhering to the dosage recommendations provided by the healthcare professional and the label. You want to stick to the label in terms of the directions. And they come in different formulations. So there's solids, tablets, capsules, there's gummies as well, there's liquids. So we've seen with things like THC edibles in terms of gummy formulations, they can be really enticing to children. So same sort of principle applies here, where you don't want to leave them just out and about in front of kids unattended. You want to keep them out, up and away, out of their reach, because again, they can come in different colors. They can look like candy, common food items that they might be interested in. So it is a very popular supplement that has sort of skyrocketed in sales, especially in the last 10 years, especially in the US, which is predominantly the biggest sort of market worldwide for melatonin sales. So again, speaking to your healthcare professional, call us again. We have a lot of specialists and toxicologists that can provide further information about that. But by and large, the ingestions or exposures, the inadvertent exposures, are relatively benign. But again, if anybody does notice that their child is not behaving like they normally do, their mental status is sort of depressed and they're becoming more somnolent or sleepy, or what we call it, when not expected, or they suspect an ingestion, give us a call. And again, call 911 if there's any sort of question, whether they're having trouble breathing or they're unconscious or anything like that.
We're joined by Dr. Varun Vora from the Michigan Poison Center on the Michigan Megacast. Again, if you have any of these sorts of issues or immediate concerns, call 1-800-222-1222, or of course, call 911 if there is an immediate emergency. The Michigan Poison Center number, again, 1-800-222-1222 for more information. Dr. Vora, another couple of minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Any other hazards or common issues that the Michigan Poison Center is currently getting more information about or hearing more about from residents in Michigan that Michiganders should be keeping aware of?
Right. So I think, with being outdoors, whether that's, common recreational areas, even golf courses, things of that nature, there's a lot of pesticides that are applied to those areas. So you want to make sure that you're avoiding skin contact with those things, with those items or those products. Especially you want to make sure that you're not applying them when pets are present. So if people are applying them in, say, your backyard or wherever it is, you want to keep pets out of that area. And if you do get it on your skin, make sure that you're washing it off immediately. And if you have any further irritation or any concerns, again, call us and we can help guide you through what the next steps are. Sort of in the same line as barbecuing and grilling, a lot of torch fuel and lighter fluid is present because of that. So these are known as hydrocarbons. So these can be very sedating if ingested inadvertently. They can be a choking hazard. People can aspirate these, meaning when things get accidentally enter the airways and the lungs, which can be a really, really serious issue. So you want to keep these away from kids, especially you want to keep them away from other flammable objects, just like fireworks. And in the event that a child does ingest it, we do get calls, we see cases about them at the bedside. They will have sort of a sleepy sort of disposition. Their mental status will be depressed because that's what it can cause sedation and increase that choking and aspiration risk. Do not force vomiting in anybody with these kind of ingestions or any type of ingestion. Call us first, or in the event of an acute emergency, call 911. Otherwise, people on boats, especially outside on the waterways now, is always a concern with carbon monoxide. A lot of people don't realize that boats are significant emitters of carbon monoxide, especially so hanging around by the back of the boat. You don't want to be back there too long while the boat's on. And grilling. Going back to grilling, avoid grilling inside closed spaces because that's also another carbon monoxide risk. So you want to make sure that's well ventilated and you're outside while doing it.
1-800-222-1222 is the number for the Michigan Poison Center for non-acute emergencies involving potential poisoning or other hazards. 1-800-222-1222. Or if you are having, as Dr. Vora said, experiencing an acute emergency, as always, we encourage you to call 911. Dr. Vora, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Tyler.
We appreciate your time and appreciate the insight from Dr. Varun Vora from the Michigan Poison Center, again, the service of Wayne State University. We'll take one more break here on the Michigan Megacast. On the other side, supporting the arts in Detroit. This is the Michigan Megacast.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabi Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast, our live daily 1-hour show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now on the Michigan Megacast is DeLashea Strawder, Executive and Artistic Director of the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit. DeLashea, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, tell us a little bit about the history and the mission of the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit is a creative youth development organization in the heart of the city of Detroit. We create equity for over 300 Detroit area youth by connecting them to professional artists and mentors, preparing them for college and career pathways, and helping them to embrace and amplify their voices. We started almost 30 years ago in order to help bridge the gap of a lack in arts education in the Detroit area for young people, and have continued to grow strong. Several years ago, we had a study done by the University of Michigan to figure out what that special Mosaic sauce was that was enhancing outcomes for Detroit area youth, which formed the Mosaic model for youth development through the arts. And we've continued to pursue that journey of really not only just empowering them, but supporting them to pursue their wildest dreams and to change the world.
And we see so often in areas where education funding is not there in the numbers it should be, or is being neglected at the state level, the federal level, whatever it may be, that one of the first sorts of programs to go are programs in the arts. And it's important that these remain in place, or that these avenues for engaging with the arts remain in place, because they have such great impact on development of youth in all of our communities. Can you speak to why it's so important to have an organization like yours in the Detroit area to help bridge these gaps and still provide access to the arts for all these children?
Absolutely. We all know that there are many benefits to robust arts education programming, and the way that arts and culture helps our communities thrive, both economically as well as socially. We build community through the arts. We tap more into our humanity and better understand one another. We build bridges and pathways to better communicate in order to be able to solve things together. And so having opportunities like Mosaic and other creative development organizations here in the city are tapping in to the brilliance of the young people in our communities, but it is also creating a pathway and a pipeline for other community members, adults, and the like to thrive and to build better communities together. We're excited to be able to partner with similar organizations like Inside Out. Share Detroit is a huge champion for nonprofits here in the community that are working together to create a thriving Detroit.
More information can be found in a couple of places. sharedetroit.org for more info on the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit. You go to there, find a nonprofit section, search Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit, and you'll find more information right there. The website, their contact information, items that you can purchase through wish lists that may be of necessity to the organization, volunteer opportunities, job opportunities, and more, all at sharedetroit.org. Another place you can find great information straight from the source is mosaicdetroit.org. That is the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit's website, mosaicdetroit.org, the website for all that. So can you take us through some of the many different programs and initiatives that are available through the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit to help to engage kids in a variety of different arts?
Yes, we are in mentoring relationships with young people through music, specifically vocal and songwriting, theater, as well as technical theater. And we do this through our intensive and consistent youth ensemble program, where young people work with us for about 4,500 contact hours a year, engaging in arts training as well as leadership development. We also partner with schools throughout the school year and do an arts residency to build capacity in schools, and our summer camp and arts entrepreneurship and internship programs. We've been going strong even throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, bringing programming into communities like Mosaic Mobile and our summer camps that are in 5 neighborhoods over the course of this summer.
And so are there programs that are these programs for just a general group of kids and individuals, or are these programs divided up into age groups? How is that discrepancy made between what programs certain kids will be in versus others?
So there are programs that young people can just sign up for so that they can discover their creativity and what Mosaic Arts programming has for them. And then there are Explorer programs where you go a little bit deeper, and then Immerse and Ambassador, where you start to explore creative and arts adjacent careers. You can start Mosaic programming as early as 3rd grade. And then as you matriculate through programming, we also stay with you through your undergraduate career in order to improve your college persistence or post-secondary education persistence.
mosaicdetroit.org for more information on those age-specific programs, as well as those more general programs that allow kids in the Detroit community to engage in arts and figure out what path is of great interest to them in the arts and through the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit. So are these programs open to anybody? Do they have to be referred to these programs? How do people sign up if they're interested, or if they'd like to get their kids involved with the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit?
If young people want to join us or their parents want them to be exposed, they can find us on all major social media at Mosaic Detroit. Most of our programs are permissionless in that they don't have to get a referral or anything of that nature. They can sign up. Our youth ensemble does have an audition requirement where we're really just wanting to get to know the young person and why this is something that they want to do so that we can pair them with the right mentor to be able to best support their needs.
So you mentioned auditions into certain programs. Are those auditions held throughout the year, or are there seasonal programs that are held through the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit?
Our youth ensemble has a one-time entry over the summer and fall. Virtual auditions open up on Get Accepted August 15th. And then our in-person auditions will take place in September the 14th and 15th. But for our summer camp programs, as well as our Mosaic Mobile, you can either sign up in advance or you can show up and register the day of. We really want to be able to increase equitable access to programming. And so while some programs require a longer duration and robust registration process, other programs meet you right where you are.
We're joined by DeLashea Strawder. She is the executive and the artistic director of the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. You can find more information in a couple of places. Either go to sharedetroit.org and navigate through their Find a Nonprofit section to search Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit, or visit the organization's website directly at mosaicdetroit.org, mosaicdetroit.org. And for those that may not have immediate access to the internet, you can also call them for more information on programs. 313-872-6910. That's 313-872-6910. One more time, 313-872-6910 for more information on the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit. So if people want to go see some of these performances, they want to see what's happening in action, how can they engage in that way with the Mosaic Youth Theater?
Well, we have a program coming up, our New Voices Detroit Youth Playwright and Composer Festival, August 12th. It's Pay What You Can and will be at the Detroit Institute of Arts outdoors on the lawn. In addition, in December, the second and third weekend, we will have our December production. More information will be coming soon. It's going to be a wonderful collaboration with the Black and Brown Theater. In addition to that, again, folks can find information about upcoming productions as well as events on our website and our social media at Mosaic Detroit.
More information, mosaicdetroit.org, mosaicdetroit.org for more information on all the programs, all these performances, more and other events, ways to give, including how you can donate to the organization. Again, mosaicdetroit.org or sharedetroit.org. We're joined by the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit's executive director and artistic director, DeLashea Strawder, on the Michigan Megacast. DeLashea, if people are interested in giving, obviously donations are always critical to any nonprofit organization and continuing their operations. What are some other ways that people can get involved and help out with the mission of the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit?
Helping to expand the Mosaic family, we have 1 hour long mission tours where people can come and learn about the impact that we are making in community and ways that they can help us to continue to spread the word and create a broader network for young people to pursue their dreams and passions. We also have opportunities for people to come and join us as tutors to help our young artist scholars be competitive as they pursue various arts, education, and career pathways.
More information, again, can be found on their website, mosaicdetroit.org, mosaicdetroit.org, or sharedetroit.org. You can also find them on on a variety of social media at Mosaic Detroit. That includes Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and more. Mosaic Detroit is their handle on most of those social media, or to search on YouTube, Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit, to find out all you need to know about this organization. And DeLashea, in terms of impact, the social side of things in the arts is often so important and overlooked in our communities, especially when it comes to children and their development. Can you speak to that and just how much of an impact the social side of these programs has on kids that participate in Detroit?
Well, we know we're at a space and time that mental health, particularly amongst youth, has been very challenging. As a result of participating in arts programs where you have a community of people that are supporting you, that certainly assists you to be able to better communicate your feelings and to be able to process what's going on. And creative youth development is a combination not only of arts education, but also the building of social emotional skills, of coping skills, of professional deportment. And young people have the opportunity to explore that in a variety of ways and then to put it into motion immediately. One of the things that we discovered as a result of our study through the University of Michigan and the impact that we were having is around positive social capital and the building of a network to support you as you are a young person in participating in programming, as well as throughout your adult life and as you pursue your dreams. So that is something that we're consistently seeing, and the data tells us that it is a strong and very supportive opportunity for young people as they continue to matriculate throughout their life.
Yeah, art is a great way to express yourself, to communicate with other people in ways that you may not otherwise be able to communicate. And so it's great that so many kids have opportunities to do that with the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit. We're joined by Executive Director and Artistic Director DeLashea Strawder on the Michigan Megacast. More information on the organization can be found either through Shared Detroit on their website, shareddetroit.org, or by visiting the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit's direct website, mosaicdetroit.org, mosaicdetroit.org, or call them at 313-872-6910, 313-872-6910 for more information. DeLashia, before we let you go, any more information that we haven't spoken on today that would be important for our audience to take into consideration or keep in mind going forward as it relates to the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit?
Yeah, we are very proud of the fact that 95% of the young artists that have gone through our youth ensemble not only graduate high school on time, but that they also go on to college, many of whom with scholarships. We know that arts education and participating in arts education gives young people more than 2 times advantage of pursuing post-secondary education and thriving. And we invite you to come and be a part of enhancing outcomes for Detroit area youth, and we hope that we'll see you around soon.
More information on programs, how you can donate, and other ways to get involved with the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit are on their website, mosaicdetroit.org. DeLashia, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. One more time, their phone number also 313-872-6910. That's 313-872-6910. All their information, their website, their social media, ways you can get involved, ways you can donate, both financial donations as well as items that may be on their wish list can be found on Shared Detroit's website, along with over 300 other charities and nonprofits supported here in the great state of Michigan. SharedDetroit.org for all of that information. That is going to do it for this week's editions of both the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacast. Just want to thank everybody that has joined us, not only on today's show, but on shows throughout the week. You can always find us online on demand, CivicCenterTV.com on our Megacast page, where you'll find all our full episodes and individual interviews available on demand sometime mid to late afternoon. You can also find us on our many partnering TV, radio, and web outlets each and every day. Those are all linked on our Megacast page as well, so you can learn more information about the other 22 hours of the day that they're not joining us for the Megacast programming. Also want to direct you to our local news page on CivicCenterTV.com, where you'll continue to find up-to-date information linked on COVID-19 from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in Lansing, Michigan, and the Oakland County Health Division in Pontiac, as well as other local communities throughout the state. Big thank you to all of our guests on this Friday edition of the Oakland County and Michigan Megacasts, as well as our dedicated crew that makes this program possible 5 days a week for 2 hours, 1 hour for the Oakland County Megacast, 10 to 11 a.m., and 1 hour from 11 o'clock to noon for the Michigan Megacast. Jared Clark and Calvin Brown at Master Control at My Michigan TV, as well as our producer, the king of television, as we call him, Larry Nyland, making this program possible each and every day. That's it for this week's Megacasts. We'll return next week with new editions of the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacasts.